DZKI-KC Cebu, DXKS Surigao, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXXX Zamboanga, DXKD Dipolo, DXKT Davao, DXDX General Santos, RPN Radio Philippines Network.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DZKI-IRIGA, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
CNN Philippines Hour sa RPN-DZKI-IRIGA, alas 6 hasta alas 7 ng manggi, Lunes hanggang Biyernes. CNN Philippines Hour.
Spreading in communities driving the exponential increase in COVID cases. But can antibodies from Omicron infection
spread throughout our population, and it's going to find everyone who is vulnerable because of either waning immunity or unvaccinated status.
What does Octa Research Fellow and molecular biologist Father Nicanor Austriaco mean by that? He explains to CNN Philippines, based on a preprint study, unlike the other variants, an infection from Omicron could help the body create protection against COVID for the unvaccinated and against all existing variants of concern for the vaccinated.
Delta did not protect against Beta, while the Omicron variant would protect you for breakthrough infections against all of the other variants as well.
But he says this doesn't excuse anyone from protecting themselves from getting COVID or from getting vaccinated.
The danger is we do not know if you will survive Omicron. No matter what, we must be vaccinated and boosted and do all that we can to prevent being infected.
For Dr. Ronjean Solante, like Delta and other variants, a person infected by Omicron will develop natural protection, but this will not last long.
There's no such thing as a lifelong protection. Eventually, your antibody will also wane, even if you are infected.
He adds, there's no assurance if it could fight new variants in the future.
But what we know is that when you have Omicron, because of this massive infection of Omicron, will create a herd immunity among the population.
Dr. Eric Tayag, meanwhile, cautions fellow experts from making confusing statements. He says there's still a lot to learn about Omicron.
Baka ma-misinterpret na sige, magpahawa-hawa na tayo para mag-end na yung pandemic. Omicron cannot be called a natural vaccine.
While most Omicron cases are mild, Tayag claims people could still be hospitalized and die.
Di ba meron tayong long-term COVID? E ba't ka magbabaka sakali na? Yes, mild ngayon, pero mamaya may long-term pa rin yun. Hanggat maaari huwag kang magpapahawa o huwag kang manghahawa.
Austriaco says a milder COVID-19 infection signals the start of the end of the pandemic. And Solante insists the way to it is still vaccinating everyone.
If everybody is vaccinated and everybody is boosted, so there will be no room for a mutation that will make it more harmful.
Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
Alert Level 3 takes effect in Laguna tomorrow because of rising COVID-19 cases. The Provincial Health Office says active cases reached 469 yesterday, up from just 22 cases last December 28. Aside from Laguna, Metro Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, and Rizal are also under Alert Level 3 until January 15. Under this alert level, the capacity of restaurants and other indoor establishments are limited. Face-to-face classes as well as contact sports are prohibited. Only those aged 18 to 65 are allowed to leave their homes. Seniors above 65 years old should be fully vaccinated to be able to go out. The Makati city government shuts down Berjaya Hotel over an alleged breach in quarantine protocols. But in a statement, the hotel management questions the closure order, saying it has no legal basis. Berjaya says the tourism department's suspension order is not yet final and that they're given 15 days to appeal the decision. It adds there is no law penalizing a hotel for not reporting a guest who skips quarantine and that due process must be observed. Meanwhile, authorities assure the public that there are enough policemen to guard and monitor compliance of quarantine hotels to health protocols. Stanley Gahete filed this report.
The Philippine National Police is ready to deploy additional personnel this week, if necessary, in response to President Rodrigo Duterte's order to increase police presence and visibility. This is to prevent incidents of individuals keeping mandatory isolation in quarantine hotels and facilities. In an interview, PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos says 1,632 police officers have been deployed to different accredited quarantine facilities to make random inspection prior to President's order.
Hindi tayo magkukulang kasi this is not the peak of our fight against COVID. We still have our reserve RSSF, yung reserve standby force. So if kailangan na magbawas kami ng personnel to be in the admin work, we can do that and deploy them.
Carlos says 2 police officers are assigned to guard every 12 hours with at least 4 officers per facility. Currently, there are 408 accredited hotels and quarantine facilities in Metro Manila and selected areas in different regions. About 9,000 individuals are currently being monitored to ensure that all of them will comply to quarantine rules and health protocols.
During the admission, so meron po silang pinipilapan na admission form. Doon po nakasaad yung mga rules and regulation ng quarantine facility.
Yung monitoring po natin, meron tayong umaga, tanghali at gabi.
People also agree beefing up police presence to help contain the spread of COVID-19.
Aware po ako na may gwardya, magbabantay sa kanila para hindi sila tularan ng mga nakaraan may tumakas.
While police presence is also needed in checkpoints in areas under granular lockdowns, Carlos says deploying additional cops to man quarantine facilities won't be a burden to PNP and that peace and security won't be compromised either.
Our efforts on the anti-crime, anti-drug, all others, may specific focus unit kami. So ito pong additional lang itong ating nasa quarantine hotels.
The PNP chief also suggests designating a common help desk per quarantine facility to easily monitor the move of all guests. For him, this is not just a PNP task, but a holistic approach where everyone should participate to help fight the surging COVID cases. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Police also remind travelers going to Metro Manila and Bulacan to always bring their vaccination cards.
Kung kayo magtaka, if our police personnel will ask for your vaccine cards as a requirement upon entry sa mga LGU tulad ng Bulacan and other Metro Manila area. Alinsunod po ito sa pinapatupad na mandato sa kanilang mga lugar to limit the movement of people, especially sa LGUs placed under Alert Level 3. In behalf of our Chief PNP, humingi po kami ng pangunawa sa mga motorista kung sakaling hindi kayo papasukin sa mga border checkpoint in the absence of the vaccination card. Ganun po talaga ang instruction sa mga personnel natin. This is for the good of the general public.
Security Group Commander Randolph Kabangbang says 15 personnel tested positive for the coronavirus. All are fully vaccinated and asymptomatic. Kabangbang adds the 76-year-old chief executive was not exposed to these cases. Malacanang earlier said protocols are in place to protect the president. Meanwhile, another cabinet member undergoes quarantine after exposure to someone with the coronavirus. Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat says she has received her booster shot and will work from home until she gets medical clearance on the 10th day after contact. Health Secretary Francisco Duque, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, and vaccine czar Carlito Galvez are also under quarantine after exposure to COVID-positive staff and household members. A lawmaker wants households to receive a one-time 15,000 peso cash assistance from the government if they are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Quezon City Representative Alfred Vargas filed the Ayuda sa Bakuna Act, seeking to encourage vaccination and help reach herd immunity. The proposed financial aid will come from the Social Welfare Department in addition to its other assistance programs. Vargas expects the measure to reach deliberations when sessions resume this month.
The Aklan provincial government is bringing back the swab test.
Omicron variant. Beginning Sunday, January 9th, tourists and returning locals will again need to present negative RT-PCR test results before entering the province, which has the world-famous Boracay Island. They must attach the results within 72 hours of their date of travel when filling up the online health declaration card at touristboracay.com or aklan.gov.ph. Swab tests were waived in November in a bid to boost local tourism. Coming up on Newsnight, presidential aspirants now down to 11 in the full body's latest list of 2022 hopefuls. And some survivors of Typhoon Odette still homeless and in the dark 3 weeks after its onslaught. More on recovery efforts when we return. Stay tuned.
Ngayong pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay. Kaya dapat always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day.
Hi guys!
Lagi akong focused, active, at extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 coffee mix, my choice.
Welcome back to
tentative list of presidential candidates for the 2022 polls from the previous 15 last month. Only 11 aspirants remain in the running, including former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who faces multiple petitions against his bid. His namesake, Maria Aurora Marcos, did not make the cut, as well as 3 others deemed nuisance candidates. Other names still in the lineup are former Malacanang spokesman Ernie Abella, former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales, Dr. Jose Montemayor, as well as Vice President Leni Robredo, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao, and Labor leader Yodi de Guzman. The 9 vice presidential aspirants in COMEX's tentative list remain, while the poll body struck down 6 senatorial hopefuls, leaving the number of contenders for the magic 12 to 64. The poll body is expected to release a final list of all 2022 candidates tomorrow. The camp of Bongbong Marcos commends the COMEX for declaring the presidential aspirants' namesakes as nuisance candidates. Apart from Maria Aurora Marcos, the poll body also struck down the candidacy of Tiburcio Marcos. Now on to other presidential aspirants. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno rolls out drive-through booster vaccination for delivery drivers in his city. Vice President Leni Robredo says almost half of those who availed of a free COVID-19 testing service today turned out positive for the virus. More than 370 results came out positive out of the 800 samples taken from her swab cab program in Quezon City. Senator Ping Lacson this morning said he has yet to receive his COVID test results 40 hours after he underwent RT-PCR testing. Lacson has been under self-isolation since Tuesday after being exposed to his son. Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman slams President Duterte after the chief executive said he would never apologize for the deaths under his bloody drug war. Calyodi says Mr. Duterte failed to fight illegal drugs and corruption during his term. And Senator Manny Pacquiao commends the Philippine Sports Commission for mediating to solve the rift between star pole vaulter E.J. Obiena and Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association. Retired boxer says he's ready to help sort things out between the two parties, as he calls Obiena a national treasure. Some experts are warning the public about unofficial election surveys making the rounds online. They say these surveys are fake and manipulated. More from Sandy Gahete.
Longtime voter Reynard Francisco says his day is not complete without checking his social media accounts and participating in several unofficial election 2022 surveys.
I-like kung ito si kandidato mo, i-heart kung ito yung kandidato mo, ihaha kung ito yung kandidato mo. Oo, kasi fun masaya very interactive. Pero doon mo makikita parang yung hakutan ng mga supporters
Reynard admits online polls are unfair.
Pag titignan mo yung mga member, yung mga nag-react, minsan kakagawa lang ng account last month. Alam mo yun, kahit social media siya, parang pati yun, nagkakaroon ng manipulasyon ng dayaan. So, nakakapikon.
Same as what official organizations do when conducting polls, probability sampling aims to represent the majority by randomly selecting samples from the whole population. This is the meaning of statistics. However, simply liking polls online aims to merely know public pulses. That is, if all participants are real account owners. Statistician Jose Ramon Albert says unofficial and false polls online could distort facts, especially when participants are those with fake accounts. Such online surveys do not contribute to intelligent awareness of people on elections and social issues.
Kung gusto nating makuha yung medyo reliable estimate of how much is going to go for one candidate or another, no? Kailangan medyo pag-iisipan mo yung design at yung implementation ng survey. Ang problema mo sa mga internet survey, yung mga Facebook, minsan kung ano ng mga pages, is that they will be only representing the people who actually gave their votes.
Tech expert Art Samaniega says social media is transforming public discourse and could be used to influence voters' decision, especially since polls here can be manipulated.
Napakadaling bumili ng likes, napakadaling bumili ng reactions. Ang delikado kasi sa social media, pwede kang i-target o pwede i-target yung segment ng society na kung gusto kong maabot.
For 23-year-old and first-time voter Renz, unofficial polls online offers nothing but social division.
It's a very superficial way to get the opinion of people na nasa online, especially Facebook. Definitely not. Lalo ngayon na uso yung trolls online and madaming fake accounts.
Experts discourage the public to participate on false polls available online.
Kung ano yung paniniwala mo, yun lang yung makikita at maririnig mo, no? Yun yung danger doon kasi akala mo lahat ng nakikita mo sa Facebook, yun lang yun. Pero actually the world is much larger than your Facebook friends.
Stanley Gete, CNN Philippines.
Victims of Typhoon Odette are still on the long road to recovery from the massive devastation that struck them 3 weeks ago. Until now, there is still insufficient electricity supply in provinces like Bohol.
And when you don't have power, you also don't have water because the water refilling stations are not working.
In the island of Siargao in Surigao del Norte, many residents are still in evacuation centers.
The real problem now is the roofing or the shelter for the people. Most of the families who are not in the evacuation center are taking shelter in a makeshift houses that are not conducive to living.
The Office of Civil Defense says distribution of aid is ongoing while damage to agriculture and infrastructure is pegged at almost 25 billion pesos.
Itong dalawang region ang pinaka-focus natin, Caraga and Central Visayas. Papunta na yan sa drafting ng comprehensive rehabilitation recovery plan. And we hope to present to the full council of the NDRRMC the draft by February 18.
Catch the replays of the special edition of The Source, Odette Aftermath, Road to Recovery at 7:30 this evening, only here on CNN Philippines. In news overseas, 13 million people in the Chinese city of Xi'an now entering their third week of a strict lockdown to curb the country's largest COVID-19 outbreak yet. With the Winter Olympics less than a month away, keeping the coronavirus from spreading further is a top priority. But as CNN's Christy Lustau tells us, the harsh rules are making daily life extremely difficult for many.
我来大姨妈了，也没有卫生巾。
No eye contact from this anti-pandemic worker as a woman under lockdown pleads for a basic essential and her dignity. Through tears, she says, "My period came yesterday. I called the hotline, the police, CDC, but no one responded." CNN can't confirm the authenticity of the video. Residents in the Chinese city of Xi'an, which has seen the largest community outbreak of COVID-19 since Wuhan, say they continue to struggle to get basic supplies and food. The municipal government concedes that there are some problems and said it's working on improving the situation. Since December the 23rd, this city of 13 million has been under strict lockdown. Residents are forbidden from leaving their homes unless it's for a COVID test. There has been public shaming of people accused of breaching COVID-19 safety laws, and a man was beaten by government COVID prevention workers for breaching lockdown. The workers were later punished after this footage emerged online. In Xi'an, there are instances of people being turned away from hospital because of COVID protocols. In a disturbing video, a pregnant woman was allegedly turned away because she didn't have a valid COVID-19 test. And according to the post from a Weibo user who claims to be her niece, the woman is seen sitting outside the hospital with a pool of blood around her feet. Hours later, she was finally admitted, but ultimately suffered a miscarriage. A staff member from Xi'an Gaoxin Hospital told CNN they were investigating the incident and that the hospital had initially turned away the woman in accordance with the government's COVID-19 rules. Officials have vowed to achieve community zero COVID before lifting the lockdown. In many ways, China's zero COVID policy has been a huge success. It has curbed local outbreaks and saved lives with mass testing and tracing, snap lockdowns and travel restrictions. But in Xi'an, patience has been pushed to the limit. The Eurasia Group placed China's zero COVID policy at the top of its list of global risks for 2022, anticipating a cycle of infections, lockdowns, disruption, and discontent that would rock the global economy. The Winter Games will pose a big test to China's strategy. Experts say people in China are vulnerable because of their lack of exposure to the Omicron variant, the lower efficacy of its homegrown vaccines, and the limits of zero COVID. Even in China, will there ever be any zero COVID?
I don't think so. Actually, to live with COVID is actually the direction to go.
In Xi'an, the number of new cases is decreasing, but desperation is growing as the lockdown enters a third week. Christy Lustau, CNN, Hong Kong.
When we come back on Newsnight, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for basketball games, with the PBA suspending them indefinitely. And from the hardcore to amusement parks, we give you updates on temporary shutdowns and reopenings after the break. players are staying off court for now.
Basketball players are staying off court for now, with the PBA postponing games indefinitely. The league says it does not want to endanger the lives of those in the community amid the rise in COVID-19 cases. All scrimmages are also suspended, even if team practices are permitted for areas under Alert Level 2. And on the tennis court, 9-time Australian Open champion Novak Djokovic